Hello and welcome to the Philosopher's Angle, your daily French philosophical take on the news headlines. This is an AI-generated podcast based directly on the writings of the philosophers discussed, but like all AI, it can make mistakes. In the news today, October 28, 2024, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer will deliver a speech defending Labour's approach to the economy ahead of Chancellor Rachel Reeves's budget announcement. The budget is expected to include billions of pounds in tax rises and spending cuts, including an increase in national insurance contributions paid by employers, VAT on private schools, and capital gains tax on share sales. The measures aim to close a £22 billion gap in public finances and fund improvements to public services. Starmer will argue that the government must embrace the harsh light of fiscal reality and make tough decisions to deliver economic stability and better public services for working people. Commentary inspired by the writings of Pierre Bourdieu, The Politics of Austerity, unveiling the hidden interests behind fiscal discipline. As UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer prepares to defend Labour's economic approach, he will undoubtedly emphasize the need for tough decisions to ensure fiscal responsibility. But beneath the rhetoric of austerity lies a complex web of power dynamics that perpetuate existing social inequalities, casting a stark light on the true nature of these measures. According to Pierre Bourdieu, the state is not a monolithic entity, but rather an arena where different factions of the ruling class engage in a struggle for dominance. The state mobility, elite schools in the field of power. This insight offers a nuanced understanding of austerity policies, which are often presented as necessary and inevitable, yet ultimately serve the interests of dominant groups. Bourdieu's concept of symbolic violence is particularly apt here. Economic policies can perpetuate existing power dynamics, reinforcing social hierarchies and limiting access to essential services like education and healthcare, acts of resistance against the tyranny of the market. The proposed tax rises and spending cuts will likely exacerbate these inequalities, as those who are already disadvantaged will bear the brunt of the measures. Meanwhile, the wealthy elite will continue to accumulate power and resources, exemplifying a microcosm of the broader societal dynamics at play. The rhetoric surrounding austerity is often legitimized by an ideology of necessity and inevitability. Starmer's call to embrace the harsh light of fiscal reality exemplifies this approach. But Bourdieu would argue that this narrative conceals the true interests at play, serving as a symptom of a deeper disease, one in which policymakers obscure the fact that alternative solutions could be implemented to address public finances without further marginalizing vulnerable populations. Furthermore, Bourdieu's work on cultural capital highlights the importance of considering how economic policies affect not only material well-being, but also access to essential services. The proposed VAT on private schools may seem like a progressive measure, but it will likely have limited impact on the wealthy elite who can afford these institutions. Meanwhile, public education will continue to be underfunded, perpetuating the existing cultural capital gap between those with means and those without. In conclusion, the UK's austerity measures are not just about fiscal discipline. They are also about maintaining power and privilege. By unveiling the hidden interests behind these policies, we can begin to challenge the dominant narrative and work towards a more equitable solution. As Bourdieu would argue, it is essential to recognize that economic policies are always a reflection of the complex web of forces within the state, rather than a neutral or inevitable response to fiscal reality. Only by acknowledging this can we start to create a more just society where everyone has access to the resources and services they need to thrive. Thank you for listening to today's episode of The Philosopher's Angle. Be sure to come back tomorrow for another reflective take on the day's news.